So this is what Story said a few years after Webster gave his closing argument at the Supreme Court. And when he came to his peroration, there was in his whole air and manner, in the fiery flashings of his eye, the darkness of his contracted brow, the sudden and flying flushes of his cheeks, the quivering and scarcely manageable movements of his lips, in the deep guttural tones of his voice, in the struggle to suppress his own emotions, in the almost convulsive clenchings of his hands without seeming consciousness of the act, there was in these things what gave his oratory an almost superhuman influence. The whole audience had been wrought up to the highest excitement. Many were dissolved in tears. Many betrayed the most agitating mental struggles. Many were sinking under exhausting efforts to conceal their own emotions. We watched, said Story, the struggle of the giant to relieve that incumbent pressure on his thoughts, to deliver out the stirring workings of his soul, and to uproot the very foundation of the opposing argument. It was a relief when Webster paused, Story said. We needed some short internal repose from the intense stretch of thought by which the mind was irresistibly driven. When Webster ceased speaking, it was some minutes before anyone dared break the silence. The whole seemed but an agonizing dream from which the audience was slowly and almost unconsciously awakened. Well, that certainly sets the bar high for Tom, but I know, having seen Tom do this performance in March in Hanover, I know that won't be any problem. And with that, I present to you Tom Burack as Daniel Webster.
This, sir, is my case. It is the case not merely of that humble institution. It is the case of every college in our land. It is more. It is the case of every elementary institution. All of those great charities founded by the piety of our ancestors to alleviate human misery and to scatter blessings along the pathway of life. It is more. It is the case in some sense of every man among us who has property of which he may be stripped. For the question is simply this: shall our state legislatures be allowed to take that which is not their own, to turn it from its original use, and to apply it to such ends and purposes as they, in their discretion, shall see fit? So, you may destroy this little institution. It is weak. It is in your hands. I know it's one of the lesser lights in the literary horizon of our country. You may put it out. But if you do so, you must carry through your work. You must extinguish one after another all of those great lights of science which for more than a century have thrown their radiance over our land. It is, sir, as I have said. A small college, and yet there are those who love it. Sir, I know not how others may feel, but for myself, when I see my alma mater surrounded like Caesar in the Senate House by those who are reiterating stab upon stab, I would not for this right hand have her say to me, "Et tu, quoque mi fili, and thou too, my son." Rest